I've always liked October and the Halloween vibes it brought. As I got older, I stopped being able to have the same kind of childish wonder towards the season. Watching scary movies late at night or going to haunted houses didn't feel the same. A coworker must have sensed this and offered that I join a group of his friends for a haunted asylum tour. I didn't know him very well as we only worked together for 2 weeks. I debated whether I wanted to be with strangers for the night. It wasn't as if I had any other plans, so I accepted. He asked me to bring a camera, which he heard I owned. From the sounds of things, he wanted to record our outing and put it on his YouTube channel. I didn't care either way. The handheld camera had been a hand-me-down. It would be nice to finally use it outside of life events for coworkers. We met after work so he could drive us to this building. I've never heard of an asylum being within driving distance, I told him on the way. It was shut down after a lot of abuse was uncovered. And I mean a lot of nasty stuff. The city did everything it could to wipe the records of the place. And locals don't like talking about it because a lot of their older relatives work there, Brian explained as he drove. I nodded as I half listened. I hadn't even been able to find the name online. They must have done a great deal of scrubbing to erase this place so well, since I wasn't paying much attention and focused more on my phone during the drive. I didn't know where we ended up. The road slowly became surrounded by trees, then turned to a dirty pathway I wasn't certain we should be driving along. This building was really out of the way. The trees finally parted, and I could see a massive building on top of a hill that Brian's car struggled against. Some other cars were already waiting for us. A full moon shone between clouds, and a slight breeze caused colored leaves to drift across the unkempt lawn. The white paint peeled off the front of the stone walls, and most of the dark windows were broken. This place looked like it came straight out of a bad horror movie. At least I would be getting my Halloween fill this season. We parked with the other 2 cars, and Brian started to introduce everyone. There would be 7 people in total. Kayla, a girl he's known since high school, waved when we walked over. Ryan worked with Brian at their last job. He didn't appear overly excited about the entire idea. I got the sense he was somehow bribed to be here. Liam and his sister arrived next in the same car. They were both tall, and within seconds of meeting them, I got the impression they could be friends with anyone. The last person arrived a few minutes after them, saying how they almost got lost. Okay, good, we're all here. Everyone wearing proper footwear? There are a lot of rusty nails and broken glass inside. How about flashlights? Most of us had our cell phones for flashlights. He didn't want us using up our batteries, so he handed out small pen lights as well as some walkie-talkies. I was impressed by all of this. Even though I was only working with him for a short time, I didn't have a very high opinion of his work ethic. When he was motivated, it seemed like he thought things through. Are you going to split up and explore in groups? Kayla asked, sounding nervous. No, not if you don't want to. It's up to you guys. I brought the radios just in case. This place is a maze, so it's easy to get lost. Our new friend Benny here will be recording for us, but it would be nice if you guys could as well if you do decide to go off alone. I winced at the nickname. I've asked him 100 times not to call me that. Just Ben was fine. I used my flashlight to look over the side of the building and noticed something I hadn't before. From the tops of the windows, a blackness had curled up and stained the sides. A familiar smell came to the air. Was there a fire here? I asked. For some odd reason, Brian's face grew a little pale. I heard there was one, but it was put out before too much damage was done. I think sometimes homeless people camp here. I don't know why he sounded a little stressed over my question. I ignored it, and Kayla spoke up. Are we going to come across anyone inside? She said, a little frightened over the idea. Nah. A new shelter opened up, remember. Why would they camp in this place when they have access to warm meals and a free bed? Brian shrugged. Well, just in case no one should go off alone. Let's get everyone's numbers. You know, if we drop the radio or something. Liam suggested. For the next few minutes, we did just that. I realized that most of these people knew Brian, but this was the first time they were meeting each other. I wasn't the odd person out in this group. Everyone ready? Brian asked and got a positive response. A cold wind blew, almost ushering our group inside. An odd feeling came into my stomach as I suddenly wanted to turn back and go home. I shook my head, refusing to back out now. Besides, Brian was my ride. Lifting the handheld camera, I followed behind the group, unaware of what waited for us inside. The lobby was massive with cracked tiles. It opened to a large set of wooden stairs that branched out, leading to opposite sides of the building. Our footsteps echoed through the room. Liam and his sister walked ahead of the group to the front desk. He leaned over, looking through the papers that were left behind. They must have closed down suddenly. I think these files have some personal information that shouldn't be left out for anyone to see, he commented, placing the dirty papers back down. It is weird. I've never heard of this place, one of the group commented. Yeah, you would think it would be a huge local legend or something. Another person chimed in. Which side do you want to start with? Brian asked, ignoring the previous questions. Right, left. Two sets of voices came at the same time. After a quick game of rock, paper, scissors, it was decided we would go left. From the looks of things, the rooms for the staff were on the right and the patients were on the left. Any treatment rooms were in the basement and the common areas were on the first floor. It would be impossible for us to look at the entire building in one night. Let's look at the left side and then go to the basement for the good stuff, Brian said, and we all agreed. We made our way upstairs, the group chattering away, ruining the atmosphere. It wasn't overly upset over that. Sure, I did want a spooky night out, but after nearly an hour of recording banter and silly antics of the group, I found myself preferring this kind of night over what I expected. Each room we peeked into was more or less the same. Ruined beds with some personal items left behind. It looked like everyone just got up and left. Each item is slowly being overtaken by the elements. Weird how there isn't any graffiti, I commented as we walked down a hallway. Another burst of wind blew through the broken windows, creating a ghastly sound that made some of the group shudder. Oh, you're right. Kayla agreed, looking at the bare and painted walls. A strong smell of something burnt came with the wind, and I found myself covering my nose with my hand. Liam noticed and sniffed the air. What's up? Are you feeling sick? He asked. I shook my head, looking around, trying to find the source of the smell. No, it's like something is on fire. Am I the only one who... I stopped as I looked over the group. It was dark, but with our flashlights I could see everyone. I counted 6 people. 6? I started looking inside rooms, trying to find the last person. We had been introduced, and yet I couldn't remember their name to call out for them. Are you sure you're not feeling sick? Liam asked, watching me as I darted between rooms. A cold fear came to my chest as I pushed by him and opened a door. Inside was a large operating room. Tools scattered along the floor, an old, massive light hanging overhead, a stained steel table. I left the door open and went to the room next to it. A doctor's office was inside, with an overturned bookcase and files littering the floor. I thought we were in the patient's living area. Why is there an operating room here? I asked, unable to hide the stress in my voice. I saw the small group glance over, faces pale at the realization. Maybe, Kayla started, but couldn't think of an answer. Wasn't there 7 of us? I finally said. They all appeared confused. Liam slowly nodded and glanced down at his phone. That was right. We all got each other's numbers. The last person's name should be there. I took out mine, looking at the small contact list. 6 new numbers. I raised my head, meeting Liam's eyes. He was as scared as I felt. I think it's time to leave, I told them sternly. He took hold of his sister's hand, ready to drag her out if needed. Why? Because you can't count? It was always the 6 of us, right? Brian said. I narrowed my eyes at him. For some odd reason, it sounded like he was trying to convince us. Was this a prank they were playing on the new guy? No. I remember adding 7 contacts to my phone. It hadn't left my pocket. Someone couldn't delete it. And everyone here wasn't friends with each other. Only Brian. Movement at the end of the hallway caught my eye. Lifting the flashlight, the beam fell on a dirty gown. The figure hunched over, skin black and cracked. Lifting its head, it looked at us with bright orange eyes as the smell of smoke and burnt meat filled the hallway. Prank or not, I wasn't going to risk it. "Run!" I shouted, and it caused everyone to move at once. I heard screaming as we stumbled over each other. In the chaos, I dropped the handheld camera, but I didn't care. Brian did. He scooped it up and then darted inside one of the side rooms. My vision was blurred as I ran as fast as I could, trying to get out of this damn place. No matter how many times we turned a corner in the hallway, we couldn't seem to find the stairs. If something was following us, I didn't see it, but I smelled something burnt close by. "This isn't getting us anywhere," Liam said and pulled his sister into a side room. We followed him, out of breath and faces stained with sweat. The room was small and could barely hold all of us. It looked like a solitary confinement cell with scratches on the cement wall. "When we calm down, we'll find a window and get out that way," Liam explained after gasping for some air. I looked around to see who was inside the room. Kayla, Liam, his sister, and me. We were missing a person. Damn it. I hissed and checked my phone. His name was still there, which was good. "Did you see where Ryan went?" I asked the group. Each appeared confused over the question, almost as if they didn't know who I was talking about. "I almost forgot him," Kayla whispered, clearly scared of what was going on. Lane gripped his sister's hand tighter. We didn't understand what was going on, only that we needed to get the hell out of here. "Okay, we really need to find a window," he said, and we all agreed. Thankfully, the next room had one. It was broken, and Liam wrapped his hand in a torn bedsheet to remove the rest of the pieces around the edges to make it safer. He put his head through, looking out with his flashlight, gauging the distance. "We're on the second floor, I think," he told us. "Won't we, break something if we jump? Can't we find a bedsheet to hide together, or—" Kayla offered. We had closed the door behind us. A sudden scratching noise came from it as the door handle started to turn. I threw my body against the door, keeping it shut as a burst of heat came from the other side. "Better a broken leg than whatever is outside," I said, straining against the force trying to get in. She nodded, and Liam went to try to fit through the window. To his horror, his shoulders were too large. Ducking out, he took hold of his sister and held her through. His face was full of stress as he lowered her out. She promised that since she was a cheerleader in high school, she knew how to fall properly. He took a few deep breaths, then finally let go of her hand, letting her body drop off into the darkness. The rattling and the heat on the other side of the door disappeared when she did. Liam stood by the window, an almost calm expression coming over his face. He turned to us, looking over the two other people in the room. "Who's going to go first?" he offered. Dread came to my stomach. My shoulder hurt from keeping the door shut. I pushed back the pain to ask a question I hoped had a good answer. "Shouldn't we see if your sister landed all right?" I asked him, my voice strained. Liam's expression turned to confusion. "Sister?" he asked. I found myself sliding down the wooden door. Kayla choked back sobs and looked away from Liam. Going out a window wasn't an option, and we just lost a person because of it. Liam hadn't fully forgotten her, but her number was no longer in my contact list. Maybe there was a slight chance she would be all right. We just needed to get out of here. "All right, let's keep going." I finally stood up. "Where?" Kayla asked, defeated. "Why don't we stay here? People will notice that we're missing." I crossed my arms, wanting more than anything for a rescue party to come and save the day, no matter how much I wanted to believe that I already knew it would be impossible. "Where are we? I mean, what's the name of this asylum?" I asked them. Shock, then sheer horror came over their faces. They didn't know. No matter how hard we tried, we could not remember the name of this place. That meant no one would be coming to save us. As hard as it was to accept, something natural was happening. I agree with Ben. I think if we try hard enough, we can get out of here, Liam said and walked over to Kayla, taking her hand. I did the same, trying to give her a comforting expression. From what I've gathered, once we separate, we forget about each other. We won't let you go, I told her, trying to smile. Tears were in her eyes. With a deep inhale, she squeezed our hands, a new determination in her eyes. I'm not some scared little girl. I won't let you guys be kidnapped. I was glad that I was with these two. I swore that no matter what, we would get out of here. Slowly, I opened the door into the dark hallway. Keeping a hand around Kayla's waist, Liam shone his flashlight down the hallway. A dark shape was a few feet away from us. It didn't react, so we wisely decided to go the other way. We walked down the empty hallway with closed doors on each side. I kept looking behind us at the figure to make sure it wasn't going to chase after us. I glanced at the room numbers and noticed we were now on the 3rd floor. I have an idea, I whispered to them. We shuffled into a room, closed the door, then I opened it, peeking out into the new hallway. Every time we went inside a room and left, we ended up in a different part of the building. Even some rooms might be inside different areas, like the operating room appearing on the 2nd floor. Maybe if we go in and out of enough rooms, we might end up on the 1st floor, I told him. Liam nodded, glad that we had some sort of plan. I have no idea how long we moved like that, zucking between rooms in a useless attempt to get outside. While inside a patient's room, Kayla paused at a dusty dresser. It's a cell phone number, she pointed out. Someone had recently written a number in the dust on the dresser. Had Brian been here? I checked my phone and saw it wasn't a number on my contacts list. Was it from someone we were missing? Before I could enter, an overpowering smell came into the room. Our backs had been turned to the bed. We moved too late. A hand came down, gripping Liam's shoulder so hard it made him crumble to the ground. The creature was a thin creature with charred flesh sticking to its frame. Kayla screamed as a burned patch started to spread along Liam's shoulder, melting away part of his shirt. My body froze as I met the creature's eyes. My entire soul was suddenly filled with so much sorrow, I couldn't move. I couldn't think. Tears sting my eyes, and I was positive we would have died there if it weren't for the 3rd person in the room. Kayla found a broken piece of a wooden chair in the corner. She grabbed the thickest part and swung it like a bat. It shattered on the creature's skull, snapping the head back so far that I thought it would come off. It screamed and then disappeared into the floor, leaving its attacker panting with a broken piece of wood in her hands. I went to see how Liam was. It took a minute before he was able to stand up. The burn was not as bad as it could have been. Thanks. We told Kayla a little bit in shock over her outburst. She said, her green eyes shining in the darkness. I now would much rather deal with whatever monsters were in the dark than ever have her angry at me. Well, I started and didn't need to finish that thought. Countless darkened, burned hands came from the walls, reaching for us. As much as Kayla wanted to fight back, she was no match for this. It grabbed hold of her and the 3 of us hauled ass back into the hallway. We almost ran over another one of those darkened creatures. It reached out with thin arms, hands like claws, ready to rip into flesh. We avoided it and ended up weaving between more of those things. We were on the move, and stopping meant being overtaken by a swarm of hands that wanted to rip flesh from bones. As we ran, I kept seeing the same cell phone number written along the walls and on the floors. I didn't have time to stop and call it. We crashed into another operating room, shortly realizing our mistake. So many of those burnt bodies squirmed through the only exit. Kayla grabbed an IV pole to keep the mass back as Liam used the steel table to create some distance. A hand landed on my wrist. I grabbed a scalpel from the table, ready to bring it down on my attacker. Our eyes met, and for that single moment, I wasn't looking at a monster. Instead, I stared at a scared young girl asking for help. The blade dropped from my hands. As if in a trance, I reached out for her, barely aware of the burning coming from where her hand touched my wrist. I suddenly wanted to hold her, to tell her I would get her out of this place. That things would be all right. A hand took hold of the back of my shirt. I found myself falling as the floor gave out, the 3 of us tumbling down somewhere unknown. I must have been knocked out. I felt a warm hand on my cheek and a voice asking if I was all right. Opening my eyes, I saw we were in an empty room with the ceiling so high I couldn't see the top. It felt more like a pit than a room. Sitting up, I say Kayla, sitting next to me. Some scratches and bruises, but she was all right. Liam wasn't doing as well. The burn on his shoulder spread. He sat against the wall, barely able to keep his eyes open. Another person was in the room with us. Brian was on his back, blood on his forehead, eyes closed as he clutched the camera as if his life depended on it. A large steel door took up most of the left wall. I could hear inhuman yowling from the other side as it got closer. "I don't know how to get out of here," Kayla admitted. I took her hand, wishing I had the answers. The way out wouldn't just fall into our laps, right? "I found this when we went here?" She nodded towards a piece of yellowing paper nailed to the stone wall. It had the same cell phone number she saw before. We looked at each other, deciding if it was worth the risk. From the sounds of things and the heat coming from the steel door, we didn't have a lot of time to think about it. I pulled out my phone, thankful it still had power left. I did try 911 first. Nothing. I then tried the mystery number. After a few rings, someone finally answered. Took you long enough. The person snapped. We all jumped because the voice was inside the room with us. I got between the newcomer and Kayla, uncertain if I could defend her from them. No matter how hard I looked them over, I could not figure out their gender. They were thin, with messy red hair cut at their shoulders. The tight black sleeveless workout shirt clings to every muscle and shows off a flat chest, as well as how thin they were. The set of baggy khakis didn't match the shirt. Neither did a pair of slim, high-heeled shoes. One was standing on Brian's chest. "Who?" I asked, stunned at the newcomer's appearance. "Jake." They responded. "Jake is a little hot," Kayla whispered in my ear. I gave her a raised eyebrow, but didn't say anything. She'd been through enough tonight. She didn't need me judging her. "Get up, you little shit." Without warning, Jake kicked Brian hard enough to send his body rolling. He gasped, clutching his sore side. He spotted the camera he'd let go of, and then scrambled for it. Jake reached it first, the heels coming down, smashing it to pieces. "You bitch!" Brian yelled, ready to attack her. A strong leg came out, knocking him senseless. I sat, not wanting to get in between any of this. From the looks of things, these two had met before. "Hurry up and get us out of here." "I'll give you anyone here that you want," Brian said between bloody teeth. Jake crossed her arms, a nasty look on her face. She had a scar on one side of her lip that made it look like a gruesome smile, even while frowning. "You've done this before," Liam struggling to speak. I felt so stupid. Brian had lured us all here for what? For footage for his dumb YouTube channel? He already knew how to travel through rooms to avoid those monsters, and he already planned on calling Jake, offering whoever was left to save his own skin. He has. I offered to save him, and this guy paid with his girlfriend. Jake said, curling a piece of bright red hair between her fingers. She was a cutie. I guess he thought he could pull the same shit twice. "Kayla is cute. Take her," Brian said, standing up only to get his legs swept out from under him. "I do this kind of thing for fun. Listening to your whiny demands isn't fun. Besides, you weren't the one who called me, so I don't need to listen to whatever you want," she said, crossing her arms again, and her eyes landed in my direction. My heart started to race. We could get out of here. I just needed to deal with this childish weirdo. "You can do whatever you want with me. Just save," I started, and Jake gave another scowl. "Boring," she hissed, turning her nose up to my offer. I looked over at Liam, knowing he didn't have a lot of time left. Even if there weren't monsters at the door ready to break it down, he needed help fast. "There were 7 of us," I started, and Jake glanced over, almost interested. I don't remember the 7th, but I know Ryan's name, and that Liam was here with his sister. "Are they still alive?" I asked, hoping for answers. Jake appearing out of thin air, and her overall vibe gave me the impression she wasn't normal. Maybe she knew more about this place than we did. "Yes. The people who die here become a part of this place. They are wiped from existence, like how all the patients were. This isn't a real place. It's an amalgamation of the suffering of the ones who died because of the system they were forced into." Jake explained and sounded almost normal. I assume it lets certain people know about it because it wants to lure in new victims. I nodded, then frowned. They weren't all fully forgotten. Didn't some of them have families on the outside? Even being buried in an unmarked grave or burned, there must be someone out there who remembers some of these people. I was mostly talking to myself. The creatures who chased us weren't monsters, just someone who had been hurt by the real monsters. Is there any way to help them? I asked, and it caused Jake to burst out into cruel laughter. I'm reconsidering your offer. You cannot help them here. You'll only be dragging them into their pain. The only way to help is to make the public aware of the abuse people suffered in these systems. To do that, you need to get out. Now, what are you going to offer me to make it worth my time? She stood tall, hands on her hips, with a smug look on her face. She held all the cards, and I needed to figure out what she wanted. You can do whatever you want with me, I said, and got a nasty look as a response. I then pointed a finger over to Brian. And you can have him, I finally said. He shot up, bloodshot face red with rage. You can't just hand me over like that, he shouted, looking as if he might strangle me. Jake might eat me, or worse. I'm offering myself to save all of you. You guys owe me your lives. Since you owe me, I'm offering you as well, I said, only making Brian even more furious. That's stupid. It doesn't make sense, he snapped, stomping a foot. You're right. And I like stupid. Okay, done deal. I assume you want those other two. Hang on. Without warning, Brian fell through the floor with a yelp. Jake followed after leaving the room, silent for a few seconds. Suddenly, Liam shot up, face a mixture of pain and confusion. My sister. Where is she? I dropped her but dash. Kayla went over to him and helped him back to the ground. Jake appeared without the two other people we were missing. She told us they were outside and that she just needed to get us free next. This will take a lot out of me. She huffed and walked towards the door, her heels clicking. Get ready to run. With some effort, I got Liam on my back. There was no other option. Kayla steadied herself. She knew that if I was falling behind, I wanted her to leave us. I would rather one person get out of this place alive. Jake threw open the door to a hell on the other side. Countless bodies were crammed into each other, screaming and reaching for warm, living bodies. A burst of flame shot out from Jake's mouth, her hair glowing as bright as the flames in front of her. The screaming grew louder as the bodies caught fire. My eyes water and skin sting from the heat. We pressed on, knowing we would die if we stopped. Jake cackled as she ran, each heel denting the floor from the force of her footsteps. A sleek body darted around the room, flames coming from her mouth and hands setting fire to anything that tried to attack us. We ran hard, my body straining against the weight on my back. I refused to leave Liam behind. We reached a set of stairs that felt endless. A fiery, cackling maniac led the way as so many hands clamored after us, nipping at our heels. We finally arrive at the lobby, the end in sight. A sea of bodies came flooding down the stairs, threatening to engulf us. Jake put herself between us, feet firmly planted, ready to set forth the largest blast of flames that could take down the entire building. Kayla got through the doors first, followed her, and set Liam down on the cold steps. She shouted as I turned on my heels to go back inside. I'd seen something in that crowd of crying flesh I refused to leave behind. Jake was already unleashing a sea of flames. I pushed through it, feeling the heat on my flesh and my shirt burning away. My hands reached out into the bodies, taking hold of a small hand. With the last of my strength, I pulled the thin person into my arms, and the heat overtook everything. I woke up on the cool grass, a foot painfully nudging my side. Opening my eyes, I saw a brightening sky and Kayla's worried face. Jake already took everyone to be treated. I thought you weren't going to wake up, she explained. I sat up with my entire body in pain. I wasn't as burned as I thought, mostly a sunburn on my arms. Next to me was a human-shaped bundle wrapped in a dirty sheet. The building was missing, leaving the hillside empty. I couldn't leave her behind, I told Kayla, placing a hand on the bundle next to me. Soft boys like you tend to get swept up into places like these. You're lucky I could pull you out of it, Jake said, very annoyed. Thank you, I told her. Her face flushed in a way I wasn't expecting. You're lucky I'm so nice. In fact, I'm so nice I'll take the body you saved and make sure she's buried properly. I was glad for the offer. I doubted I could show up with a random corpse and ask the police to identify her without there being a lot of questions. Jake paused, thinking almost as if she wasn't sure. She made a scene of muttering to herself and puttering around. Pancakes, she finally said. Kayla and I looked at each other with a matching expression. There's a breakfast place I've been wanting to try, but it's only open in the mornings. I never wake up before noon. Buy me some and bring them over, and we're even. Jake nodded. That's it? I said, mentally kicking myself after I asked. What, did you want me to eat you or something? You don't have an ounce of meat on your bones, and it would take too long to fatten you up. With that last comment, she tossed a set of keys in my lap that belonged to Brian's car. Thank you. I told her again, and she stuck her tongue out as if I said something disgusting. I still had her cell phone number so we could figure out the pancake day and how many she wanted. I might be stuck delivering breakfast to this weirdo for a long while. And I was perfectly all right with that. Love horror? Subscribe for more terrifying videos.